But I want to address this simping allegation. Do I simp for black women? Yes. I love black women. I don't like y'all niggas. This is an easy decision to make. Sorry.
I let love slip away. Now all that I can say, love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love.
But does anyone see that? No. Does anyone care about that? No. All they see is an aggressive black girl talking.
Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, I let love slip away. Now all that I can say, love, oh 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 love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. Love, oh love, oh love, oh love, oh love. I let love slip away. Now all that I can say,
Oh, let's get to it. Is this thing on? Mic check, mic check. Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for tuning in once again, once more into the breach. And you know, as the well-known, world-renowned misogynist, I do think it's only fair that I look at both sides of the misogyny problem. Meaning, you know, is there something wrong with the men? Every now and then, we got to take a look at the men. You know, we got to do a temperature check, see what's going on, vibe check these niggas. You know. And I came across a video we're going to review a little bit later to tie this all together. You know, the age of the pathetic man or whatever. But be warned, it's a fat chick and her gay friend, so you know you can take anything you hear with a grain of salt. But you know, a lot of the women are declaring that these men just ain't enough. These men just ain't hitting. So we gotta take a look. We gotta at least listen to them for a minute, you know. Hit that like button for me, guys.
I am not buying no motherfucking lingerie. You better come up here and lift up this family reunion shirt. I know that half of it is missing. I know that you reading the names of all my family members. That don't matter. By the time you lift this shirt, I'm butt bookie ass naked. So what does it matter? What you trying to get into? You trying to get into my family? You trying to get into me? I am not.
No lingerie for you. You know what? I'm good with that too, babe. I'm good with that. You don't buy no lingerie and I won't look under your family reunion t-shirt. Deal? Done. And you know, just for kind of shits and giggles, I came across something this morning. We have to share this. I found this morning. There is a video game coming out, and you know, man, I'm kind of out of my video game phase, but there is a video game coming out called Crimson Desert, and allegedly it allows you to punch women. And this guy here, Mr. Obvious, he says he's never been more ready to pre-order in his life. Finally, a game that gives gamers what they want.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
I'm too much amazing. What are you doing now? You've got this all wrong.
Why would you do that? Why are they doing this in a video game?
Help me!
Why would they put this in a video game? Did he just knock a coin out that bitch? What just happened? What just happened? Oh, he just knocked some trinkets out. Oh no, and he just picked. Oh no. Oh no, what kind of game? Why would you do this? No. What in the misogyny is going on in video game land? Snowman, I know Snowman is already going to pre-order. I know Snowman is already pre-ordering. But anyway, what is wrong with you niggas? What the hell is wrong with you niggas? That's what these women want to know. What is wrong with you niggas? Why are you niggas like this? Niggas out here just looking crazy.
Isn't it crazy how whenever men are failing at something, it has to be somebody else's fault? There is so much ink spilled on the topic of why young men aren't going to college, why young men are doing worse in education, the male loneliness epidemic, yada, yada, yada. There was that article about how Black men aren't going to college at the same rates as Black women, and why aren't they going to college? And surely it's because structurally this, that, and the third. But notice how when women are failing at something, failing in quotations, the onus is always on them to fix it. Like there's such an emphasis on self-improvement and, oh, do you want to have it all? Do you want to have a family and a career? You can do it. You just need to work yourself to death. where is that same energy of self-improvement and pull yourself up by your bootstraps for the men? Like the way people talk about the male.
One thing, as a class, not individually, but as a class, women have not pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. Women have been pulled up, propped up, and held up by all manner of government and social policy. So this idea that women have just, girls out here doing it for themselves, it's like a giant, the oppression fantasy, oppression dysphoria again,
Loneliness epidemic is as if it's a crisis that everybody in our society should try to address. And it's like, why don't you tell the men that, oh, you guys should be doing the self-work on yourselves and you should be going to therapy and you should be, hosting book club and all this. Like somehow they make it women's fault that men don't have any friends. Like I'm just trying to understand. And that's the tone. Maybe nobody is directly saying that it's women's fault, but that's the tone, I feel like. But what I'm saying is, why don't we get that exact same energy back? Like, for example, there's a childcare crisis in this country, which should affect men and women equally, you would think, because they both have children, but it doesn't. And when do we view it as a problem that it's like, all men and women, we all need to be working on?
Why would there be a childcare crisis? Why would there be a childcare crisis? Why are women who have children to care for going through a crisis? What is wrong with these women? Maybe it's a skill issue. Maybe it's a skills issue. I'm prepared to say the overwhelming majority of the social issues that we deal with in America can be boiled down to a series of skill issues.
Mondays, we need to be fighting for affordable childcare. No. In fact, a lot of men are like, well, just stay home. And to me, this is reflected in these previous election results where so many young men voted for Donald Trump, because it's like, I'm sorry, is the Republican Party not supposed to be the party of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stop blaming other people for your problems and stop trying to use the government to da-da-da-da-da, basically? But then they want to tell us that, oh, basically these people were affected by structural issues, which I agree. But what I'm saying is like, so they were affected by structural issues, these young white men who are living in towns where manufacturing used to happen and now there aren't jobs. So we should intervene and create the jobs. And it's like, I thought you guys didn't believe in the power of government. But when other people are affected by structural issues, now all of a sudden it's they're lazy, they don't want to work, nobody wants to work anymore. That's another topic. I'm just like, I'm tired of the coddling when it comes to the male gender, of constantly these articles that come out. It feels like a new one every single day about what we should be doing to help young boys and men, right, get out of whatever circumstances that they're in. And it's like, where are we getting that reciprocated?
That's the irony. Another irony, really, of this this feminism thing. It's been like 100 years of feminist gains, and after every feminist gain, they turn around and look back at the men and say, "What have you done for me lately?" Dun, 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 ooh, yeah. Every time they take a win, they turn around immediately and say, "We didn't win nothing. We need more. What have you done for me lately?" Like the whole goddamn government works to keep women happy, and it's what have you done for me lately?
And in fact, he did weigh in on this issue. He was on Liz Plank's Boy Problems podcast, and he said the following. He said, I think, first of all, it is absolutely not women's responsibility to resolve this crisis. I think that this is a crisis that's born out of more systemic forces. He went on to say that a lot of those systemic forces contributing to men's loneliness have to do with just this greater sense of alienation in today's world as things are becoming more and more expensive for people to afford and the connections between people are fraying. So I think that is a good kind of socialist framework. I think I alluded to something similar early on. I think the key part there for me is him saying that women aren't responsible for the crisis.
Not
and
at all.
when we saw women like Jill and Ella pipe up expressing their frustration with the existence of the crisis, it does look to me, Ryan, like they're then being criticized for just saying, hey, yeah, the crisis is real and it sucks and I'm experiencing it. And that somehow is framed as like part of the problem because they're doing bigotry that's going to like radicalize the men further, as though men are radicalized because women are mean to them, as opposed that women are quote unquote mean to them because men are abusing them.
It will be harder to socialize men in a progressive direction if the Jills of the world are constantly making it feel to men like they are completely unwelcome, if there's no path for them out of this darkness. That's the point. It's not their responsibility, and go ahead and say whatever you want. I'm just saying, like, if you want to end this, if you want to fix this, if you want to change it, like, at least be open to the possibility of it, and don't mock the idea that boys and men's feelings like matter.
Ryan, are you
I'm going to be
this
honest
as
with you,
well
Ryan?
as go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Ella.
Ryan, a lot of my peers do mock the idea of male loneliness.
I know they do.
At the end of the
I
day,
absolutely know they do. We hear it all the time. We hear it from you all the time.
but you know what we hear more?
Oh shit. Now it's a competition. You hate me more. I'm a bigger victim. I need all the attention.
Misogyny. So it's difficult to take the idea of male loneliness seriously when I know what's driving the misogyny epidemic isn't male loneliness, it's misogyny. It's the
is misogyny making you niggas lonely? Is misogyny the reason why these niggas is having an epidemic? Listen, if misogyny is making you lonely, you're doing misogyny wrong. Misogyny can't be the reason you're lonely. Misogyny, I've never been truly alone in my misogyny. That's not really how misogyny works. It's just I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you know, chicks are crazy like that.
pre-existing hatred for women.
But pre-existing to what? Time immemorial? I mean, these are social constructs.
Men are socialized from birth to hate women.
It's true, Ryan.
Since
like,
when? Since when, though? Like,
since always.
It's worse because it's worse.
The dawn of time.
Since the dawn of time. Look, you know, it's ironic. This is really like color coded, ironically. You have these two POC brown girls or whatever trying to explain to this white man that men have always hated women since the dawn of time. Which, all right, on one level, are you talking about your men or white men? That's one level right there, because this is a very racially coded conversation here, all right? I'm just looking at what's on the screen. My eyes are telling me there are all kind of things happening. There's all kind of subtext under the conversation here. So, like, have your men hated you all the time? Because white man's over there like, listen, we've always loved and cherished our women over here. I don't know what you brown bitches are talking about. Maybe you need to talk to your men about these problems that you're having. But in a broader context, though, it really does just kind of look so stupid. Like, are you really saying all men? As much as we've done for women throughout all of time. I mean, listen, I know that you're going to tell me that women weren't allowed to write anyway, but I bet you some of the oldest poetry was literally like, I mean, some of the oldest love poetry was written by men. Some of the oldest love poems are written by men. Because that's just how niggas are. But anyway, men have just been socialized forever to hate women.
So much worse today than it was even 15 years ago. And there has not been a change in humanity in like the fundamental.
But there has been. It's called feminism, Ryan. The change in humanity is that women are able to, they don't rely on men. This isn't Jane Austen, and I don't need a man who makes $400 a year.
Oh yeah. We might come back to that one. We might have to come back to that conversation.
So the other night I went to a function and I realized a lot of what we see in male behavior when they're out in public and at parties is just an adage of the male loneliness epidemic many of them are struggling through. Let me explain. So basically at this party, what I came to notice was it was a smaller function, so I could make observations more easily. The women were on the dance floor, often interacting with each other, and the men would come in and sit down on the side and basically just observe the women on the floor. And I was observing them, observing the women. And it was almost like they were watching, I don't know, puppies at play. I think men have gotten to a point where some of them are so detached from humanity and so devoid of genuine connections that have depth and therefore empathy, warmness, and other feelings of closeness that are chemically released by our brains when in close relations with others, even if on a platonic level. They lack this, and therefore they're cut off from a large experience of humanity, which is bonds and how they make us behave. So instead of getting these things in their own way, they do what people often do when they're devoid of a certain emotion in their life. When you're painfully single, you yearn. When you don't have any humanity connection, you're going to go out to spaces where you can observe them. And this turns into a lot of men being in these spaces just standing around and watching. They're essentially monitoring spirits personified because at this point, this is the only way they can even observe humanity, if not even participating in it, because it's so foreign to them. It is no different than watching, say, puppies play. You see, it brings them joy to see carried out because it may release emotions they have no other way of accessing.
You know, the irony of this thing is she is watching the men while the men are watching everybody else. Like, you're literally doing what the men are doing. The men are watching and observing, and you over there in the corner sipping your lonely cocktail. Look at these niggas watching and observing. I can't stand a looking ass, thinking ass nigga. And you over there looking and thinking about these niggas.
Due to their lack of social connections with others. And when I asked them why they were doing this, they couldn't even tell me themselves. They couldn't even tell me why they were on the sideline. I went up to them and I said, "Are you going to just stare at the party or participate in it?" Only one man got up. The rest of them continued to just observe and
oh my God, you went over there. So ain't none of you niggas gonna talk to me or not? Oh, you know, that's exactly what happened. You didn't walk over there with your clipboard and your little cute spectacles on. Excuse me, gentlemen, I was just taking a survey here and I was wondering if you'd like to participate. No, you didn't do none of that. You didn't do none of that. You walked over there. So you niggas ain't just going, you're just gonna stand there and not talk to me? I got dressed for nothing. All of these women over here, you just gonna stand there?
why they were on the sideline. I went up to them and I said, "Are you going to just stare at the party or participate in it?" Only one man got up. The rest of them continued to just observe and stare
Literally
at
chase
the
the
women in
niggas
the
away.
party actually participating in it, while trying to almost wrap their minds around how these people were able to socialize and also siphon energy from the socialization and fun that was happening in front of them, rather than even talking to each other and trying to build bonds with one another. They were so in awe at the performance of humanity, and it really reflected how long they had gone without it.
She said these niggas ain't
So the
human. You niggas ain't got no humanity. What's wrong with you niggas? Niggas need to heal. Do y'all niggas need a hug? Oh, I've seen this video. I've been wanting to talk about this too, y'all. Is love dying? That's a question we need to ask, y'all. Is love dying? That's what she wants to know. She was looking for love, y'all. Apparently it died on her.
I was just sitting here thinking about how I went to singles night at church and it was hundreds. I mean, at least 1,000. First, I thought it was 500, but the pastor said it was 1,000 singles in attendance. Like, are we all living the same life at this point? Because
First off, hold on. What mega church do you go to that can attract 1,000 hoes? Do you know how dense your population has to be to just attract 1,000, not just 1,000 women, to a giant open cattle call, but 1,000 women looking for Jesus and love. That's like a very particular population group, right? That's like a group within a group within a group. And you got 1,000 of them. That's like Creflo Dollar Church. What church are you going to where you just found 1,000 women lonely, looking for the love of Jesus and a strong black man? How do you get 1,000 of them together at one time?
Just sitting here thinking about how
I do not want to live anywhere near that. We need to draw a giant, big, red 100-mile radius circle around that epicenter and stay away from that area. That has to be one of the worst areas to live in, especially as a black man. You're going to be knee deep in the shit. It's like a black hole of single mothers and liquor stores and Baptist churches.
just sitting here thinking about how I went to singles night at church and it was hundreds. I mean, at least 1,000. First, I thought it was 500, but the pastor said it was 1,000 singles in attendance. Like, are we all living the same life at this point? Because I've never been in a room with that many single people, or even thought that it was even, I thought I was like the only one left. I mean, beautiful women, all types, shapes, and sizes.
Yeah. You know, when women say beautiful women and then say all types, shapes, and sizes, that almost cancels out the beautiful part, because all types, shapes, and sizes cannot be beautiful. Beautiful has to have limited, defined parameters. And once you obliterate the limitations and the defined parameters with shit like all types and all shapes and all sizes, like, no. What is beautiful then? Beautiful is a social construct. Shout out to Bluff City. He says, maybe love never existed. Maybe beautiful never existed. How about that? How about that? Love never existed. Beauty never existed. You just love everything and anything. Just blah. Everything is just. Love never existed. Beauty never existed. Life is just shit. Everything is awful. I feel like I'm talking about the ghetto. I don't know why saying those words together, saying love never existed, saying beauty never existed. All of a sudden, I felt depressed, like I was talking about the projects or some shit. God damn it! What the hell did I just think into? Bluff City, you are conjuring dark images in my mind. Maybe love never existed. Anyway.
Really African American women, like a room full of singles, and I'm like, this has to be an experiment. Like, this has to be like assimilation. Or is that the word I want to use? I think so. Like, I'm confused and I'm like low key, like nervous, like for us. We're shit for myself, fuck y'all, because where are the men? Where are the men? Then again, don't know. Never mind. Don't. We know where they at. Bye.
Where are the men? That's what she wanted to know. Where are the men? And you know what? Where is that other video? Because I came across this video. Damn it. Now I gotta go looking through my my bookmarks. I forgot to pull it up. But I found this video from a young woman in Atlanta. Apparently Atlanta is like the worst place to ever go for dating. I don't know. On the one hand, I saw a tweet that a black dude says, if you're a straight black man, in Atlanta, that's the spot to go for dating. Which, again, that is the huge caveat, right? A straight black man. Because, you know, Atlanta is one of them cities where it's like, you know, a lot of other shit happens there too. You don't necessarily want to be one of them other niggas. But I found this video like, I don't know, like a week ago. Now I'm digging through my bookmarks because I totally forgot to pull it up. But she says she dates thugs because everybody in Atlanta who went to college, all the good, clean cut, upright, college educated, decent black men, you know, she basically shitted on the whole concept of the educated lames and all that. She said all of them niggas is gay. I was like, no, this can't be true. This can't be true. But that's what she said. She said all of them niggas that went to Morehouse, the niggas that went to Emory, all of them niggas that went to all of the colleges around there, she said them niggas is gay. Niggas at Clark, they gay. She said all of the college educated Atlanta niggas, the niggas that go to the coolest restaurants, the rooftop parties, they know all the secret places to go. They know the secret handshake and the wink and the nod and all of that shit. They on a first name basis with the bouncers at the nightclub. Them niggas gay too. I'm like, really? Damn, that's crazy word. The whole Atlanta, all of the niggas, she said all of them niggas, y'all.
Okay, if you want to be around straight men in Atlanta, you have to hang in the country or in the hood environments. Unfortunately, all the men in Buckhead and in Midtown and in the swanky things, in the city, the art events, the cultural things, all those places, unfortunately, that has been overtaken by DL men. Don't ask me, ask your mom. And so that's...
She said it's just been overtaken. Like the niggas launched the fucking... a marine invasion. Like they established the beachhead and now they're battling for the interior. Pause.
Yeah, what are they coming to church doing? Being gay!
City, the art events, the cultural things, all those places, unfortunately, that has been overtaken by DL men. Don't ask me, ask your mom. And so that's why you'll see, like in Atlanta, a lot of pretty women just with like hood or country men. That's because they're trying to make sure that they're straight. Because dating these swanky, artsy-fartsy city men who know all the restaurants and high rises and rooftops, who graduated from Morehouse, you just can't detect. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just...
Now, she said something about Morehouse too, and I think I just heard something recently about Morehouse. Morehouse had an issue. I didn't realize this until I began to question her sincerity about the whole Atlanta dating life. And then, you know how the universe, once you start to ask a question, the universe / internet will kind of provide answers to you. It's like the universe / internet is trying to get into your mind and stay in tune with all the things that interest you and then provide these things to you. They call it an algorithm. Well, apparently, this is Morehouse. These are Morehouse men. These are historically gay niggas. I didn't realize that's what was going on at the black colleges and universities. We got historically gay niggas in Morehouse. This is historic homosexuality in the black community. This is what happens when you send your son, your oldest black son, your pride and joy, to get a black man's education at a black man's university. Is this the shit that goes on when you learning about your blackness? When you trying to get a 4-year degree in the culture, this is what you got to go through? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. at the black man's university. They told me Morehouse was the university by black men for black men, so black men can educate other black men on how to be a proper black man in this white man's America. And this is the shit that you got to go through. Oh my God. How are these niggas fighting white supremacy, y'all? Tell me how these niggas are fighting the white man. Tell me how we are empowering these young men to go out there and do economic battle against the white man. How are we empowering the youth? What happened to the youth, y'all? Tell me why this is black culture. Tell me why this is a part of the historic black education curriculum. What is historically black about this, y'all? Tell me what is historically black about these niggas right here. I did not realize this is what you get with your historical black education. Niggas twerking on stage. I bet you they start throwing money at these niggas. They about to make it rain on these niggas. Morehouse men's choreography. Dancing like a Morehouse man, huh? Is there a Morehouse man in the audience, man? I need a Morehouse man to tell me that you disavow this shit. You wasn't at school that day. You was home sick. You was home taking care of your sick grandmother the day this type of shit happened. Because this right here is incredible. This is incredible. I can't believe you are giving credence to what this woman had to tell me. I can't believe she might be right about these Atlanta niggas, y'all. She just might be right about these ATL, DL niggas.
Okay, if you want to be around straight men in Atlanta, you have to hang in the country or in the hood environments. Unfortunately, all the men in Buckhead and in Midtown and in the swanky things, in the city, the art events, the cultural things, all those places, unfortunately, that has been overtaken by DL men. Don't ask me, ask your mom. And so that's why you'll see, like in Atlanta, a lot of pretty women just look like hood or country men. That's because they're trying to make sure that they're straight. Because dating these swanky, artsy-fartsy city men who know all the restaurants and high rises and rooftops, who graduated from Morehouse, you just can't detect. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just too close to proximity to being gay. And a lot of them are DL. I just went out last night and that's what it was. So girls, you just have to go out in the city for the girls. And if you're trying to find a lover, you're trying to find a real man, you got to go to the outskirts. You got to go out the city. You got to go to the hood. You got to go to the country, out the way. And then you'll have a better chance of finding a straight man. Great.
So country niggas and thugs, those are your options, right? I don't make the rules. I say this all the time. I do not make the rules, but we're getting reports on the ground from ATL. If you are a black woman looking for love in Atlanta from a straight man, country niggas and thug niggas, those are your options, all right? A lot of the men and a lot of the thugs too. Don't even get me started. A lot of it's just gay. It's just dicks all the way down. That's really what it is. It's just dicks all the way down. God damn it. You're in for a problem no matter what. Let's see what's happening on the other side of the love game here.
From direct. So they say we're in a male loneliness epidemic, but I found myself wondering from direct experience, is it a male loneliness epidemic or is it an epidemic of superfluous males who have made themselves invisible to the category of women that would be an appropriate match for them. Let me explain this. So I'm 37, and since I was like 35, I've only dated men who were my age up to early 50s on occasion. Mostly the men I've dated have been around exactly 10 years older. And a lot of my girlfriends who are as attractive as me, they actually are dating younger men or men that are their age or just like 1 to 2 years older. I haven't dated anyone younger, not to say that I wouldn't, I just haven't. A lot of women only date younger now if they're very attractive and in great shape. They certainly have that option. So I cast a pretty wide net every time I join dating apps, and I'm going to describe a certain
You know,
arc.
for whatever reason, men always get the criticism about dating younger women. But I do think that there's also an equal phenomenon where older women who can attract younger men will just date younger men. If you can get it, you can get it. There's something attractive about youth and fertility, virility, whatever you want to get from the other side of it. It's just a thing. I don't know why it's only the men who get looked at because you date down.
Archetype of a profile that I see quite often amongst the older men. I'll actually just describe 2 different profiles that I saw recently of people that had liked me. The first man was 53. He looked older than 53. He sent me a message asking if I had modeled for Sports Illustrated and saying he would be really happy to meet up. This was in New York. So he had on his profile that the woman must be okay with relocating to New Jersey because he is starting a New Jersey-based business. And he had multiple lines saying that he doesn't do spoiling, he does not do princess treatment, and the woman must not be a brat. He had a lot of requirements and demands. And then when I got to his dating goals, it said very unapologetically, I am only interested in younger women because life's not fair. And 50 is the new 37. Now, this man was 53. Okay.
So that makes him what, 38? Can a man have standards anymore? Why can't he want what he want? You want what you want, and you're happy waiting until you get it, right?
I then came across another profile of a guy who I would say was very, very unattractive. And he wrote me and said, "You're gorgeous, just like me." And his profile said, "I'm dating younger because we men mature much slower than women, so it all evens out." Now, this guy was in his 50s. I could also tell he was not affluent. Here's the thing. A super, super wealthy guy is not what I'm personally after. You do need ambition. You need to not be like a bum who's on the couch all day, but I'm more after intellectual compatibility and physical chemistry. But I would be foolish to deny that there aren't a lot of women, or rather men can bypass traditional rules of dating by having wealth. That is just the way the world works, okay? And to ignore that is quite foolish.
Didn't that other guy in the email that you thought was an asshole tell you that exact thing? Life isn't fair. That's literally what the guy told you. And here you are now making a life isn't fair point on behalf of men with money, no less, Anyway.
So you've basically, this first man, you've made a profile where you've rendered yourself irrelevant to the women who would choose you, because a younger woman who's going to choose you is going to want princess treatment. Now, he won't consider a woman his same age. And frankly, I feel like a lot of the women his age might not be that interested in him either. But he has literally made himself a superfluous male. He won't spoil you. He will. Oh, and he wanted kids too. So this is where it gets really, really dicey for the potential woman, because a potential woman, she has now taken on a man. She's had to move to New Jersey. She's taken on a man who is substantially less attractive as he wants Sports Illustrated model. She's uprooted her life to Jersey. He's not spoiling her or giving her princess treatment, and she's now taking care of the kids because he's started a business. What the fuck is in that for a potential woman?
It's called being a wife at home with security. He has a job to do. You have a job to do. We both meet in the middle. Wow, good night. Start this whole thing over in the morning. That's just normal life for regular people.
What woman would choose this scenario? I'll tell you, a woman with no other options. I live in LA. People here are very attractive.
Oh, you
I know
live in
very attractive older
LA.
men.
That it really explains it, doesn't it? You live in LA. I think that right now the city of LA is probably like 25-40% plastic. You live in like the fakest city in the country. No wonder you're confused.
Who, when they've been ready to settle down at 45 to 50, it's been a real reality check for them. And a lot of them won't consider even a girl who's in her late 30s because they have this idea that they're entitled to a 25-year-old. So I'm just going to point some people out who might be relevant or noteworthy for these men. Starting off with Joe Rogan, whose wife is 8 years
Where the hell
younger
Joe
than
Rogan
him.
come into this at?
And he married her and she had a kid from a previous marriage. 8 years, pretty respectable age gap. And it's Joe Rogan. Keanu Reeves married a woman who is 9 years younger than him. And people mock him for not being with a younger woman. They look very happy. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez have a 6-year age gap. So even wealthy celebrities and elites, they're not doing this. The people who are doing this are people like Leonardo DiCaprio, who is ultra wealthy and good looking and an incredibly famous actor. And he's a fairly rare, uncommon case. Like, he is not the majority. Also, my father, who passed away, I was raised by a very, very amazing father. He was very attractive and could have dated younger women, and his girlfriend when he died was the same age as him. We need to accept that some things are transactional, even if we don't want them to be. No woman who these men want would accept this situation. It would be considered a very bad investment. And I believe that the reason
You got way too many jump cuts in this thing. It's like you can't have more than one coherent thought at a time. You see how I'm like just talking and then one sentence feeds right into the next sentence and one idea feeds into the next idea. It's as if you are incapable of maintaining that level of dialogue, even when there's nobody else. You're not even trying to impress anybody else. You're just telling the world what you think as you think it. And you are incapable of doing that. You have 1,000 jump cuts every time you say a literal sentence. You say words and then jump cut. More words, jump cut. Every time you jump cut, it makes me think you had to stop and think a very long time about the next words that you said. It probably took you, how long is this video? 6 minutes? I bet it took you an hour and a half to do a 6-minute video. This is crazy work. This is crazy work. And they say there's something wrong with men. You know what? And I feel like I've killed a lot of time on this here. I want to go back to, I want to start at the title video here. The Year of Pathetic Men. And like I said, be forewarned, it's a fat chick and her gay friend, so you know. It is what it is.
Like that's not my baby.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You have called 2026 the year of the pathetic man. How do you define a pathetic man, and why do you think that this year, of all years, is their year?
I don't understand why women, especially women who are, quote unquote heterosexual. I know for liberals it doesn't really mean anything anymore, but why women who are not gay insist on having conversations about straight men with gay men? It's as if, like, would you ask an ant to describe a butterfly? Like, it's like you're getting your information from all the wrong places here.
To define pathetic, I think obviously it's a very loaded word, but I do think that there is something about the specific interplay of emotionality and manipulation, right? I think that there is this element of like, this person is a little bit of a loser and they're trying to make it lovable. And in the piece, I was like, I feel like the wool is being pulled over my eyes. I feel like you are being a loser, you're being ineffectual, you're being not good at whatever you're trying to pursue in order to make me feel bad for you. So therefore we can't criticize you anymore, right? And it's not the like sort of BuzzFeed, Tumblr feminism of like, boys are bad. It's more specifically the idea that like, you are trying to manipulate me by getting me to feel bad for you because you are not successful or not interesting or not emotional, or it's sort of this idea of being like turning masculinity on its head, where you're obviously not every man is supposed to be stoic and like boys don't cry.
Yeah.
But then I think that there is this element where men obviously learn that. I think millennial men, the rise of therapy, Gen Z guys.
The rise of therapy. Oh my God. I was just thinking about something while he was going on, prattling on. And I don't readily have an answer for this, and maybe you guys, I'm gonna crowdsource this one here, but what is it about left-wing culture, and this is not even a black question, this is just a broader left-wing political social phenomena, what is it about left-wing culture that gives a certain moral authority to the gay community? Have you noticed that, by the way? Have you noticed that for whatever reason, like I said, I can't quite pin it down, but the left wing gives moral authority simply to just being homosexual. And it's troubling, but I can't like intellectually connect any dots on that one just yet. It just simply is. And I'm kind of watching that. I'm getting vibes from that right now, because every time they have this conversation, think about that whole conversation that blew up a couple of weeks ago when they were saying that black men need to trust black women. And not only were there like, they had a big, aggressive, fighting ass gay nigga, they also had a transgender nigga in there. The one, he looked like he could have been Dominican, he could have been Arab, but he had a big thick beard. Turns out he was born a girl and then grew a beard and took some tea shots, and now he's at the table talking about what's wrong with you men. Why do they give moral authority to the gay community? As if there is a higher morality to simply being gay. I don't understand it quite like intellectually, but I know there has to be some type of connectivity to reality. It's not just a thing that exists in a bubble. There's a reason why.
And so now they're like, okay, well, I'm going to cry on cue. And it's like, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. You're not going to get me. You're not, I'm sorry. Like all of the examples that I listed, I was like, you are doing this in order to inoculate yourself from further criticism so that we can't use your failures as an actual cudgel against you.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is some deep, Far Eastern. Oh, I hear old Asian grandmas have like a steely reputation. Like they have a sort of brutality to their wisdom. I guess I can say that. Shout out to the Coon of Coons with the $10. He says, stole something from my mother-in-law. She said to her granddaughters, if your girlfriends aren't invited to weddings regularly, you need to find new friends. Asian moms are harsh, but I love it. That is actually very, very cutting advice. Like, because I know there are a lot of, especially in the modern era, how many weddings do you hear about anyway nowadays? Especially like big extravagant affairs, right? So if I bet you there are a lot of girls who are just not going to be going to any weddings in their 20s for the most part. But yeah, that is kind of rough. That feels kind of rough. God damn it. You need to be going to weddings while you're in your 20s, while you're still young and viable. You need to be out there in the wedding world.
If you don't have a man, you ain't nothing.
Well, shout out to SKC, y'all. Do me a favor, hit that like button and smash that super chat button while you're in here, y'all.
Hulk! Smash! Smash you! You make Hulk angry. You not like Hulk angry. Hulk no like fighting girls.
Kind of separate from the performative male. It just sounds like, they're kind of trying to find comfort in the aesthetics of, maybe being this like enlightened, like cool, emotionally in tune guy.
Yeah.
But he's like not doing that right either. He's not actually doing that work.
Yeah, and to like asterisk that, I'm not saying that all of these men are pathetic because they're not performing traditional masculinity, right? In sociology, gender is a performance, gender is a construct, Judith Butler of it all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't want to get like attacked by being like, you have to get a job and you have to wear Carhartt.
That is an interesting thing. For him to claim from whatever construct he's operating under, for him to claim that gender is a performance, what would he say he's performing gender-wise? Does he see himself performing masculine gender or feminine gender? Since he's performing, do you think you're acting like a bitch? That's a philosophical question, all right? Put me up there with Socrates and Plato and shit.
It's more specifically, I think the combination, like I said, of the performance, where in sociology, Goffman believes that everything is sort of a performance, which is why I ride so strongly for reality TV, where I'm like, yes, you are performing a version of yourself on camera, but like Goffman believes that you're always performing a version of yourself, right? Like the self that you are at work is not the self that you are at home, which is not the self that you are with your partner, which is not the self that you are with your best friend, right? And so I think that what I'm saying is that the performance of this sort of like hangdog, ineffectual, like, I'm so lonely, I'm so sad, I'm such a flop, I'm such a loser, is very calculated.
And one of the reasons why I was just asking about that whole moral authority question earlier, because when you think about the left wing and just about everybody who's a figure on the left wing, they are pretty much all universally guilty of this in one capacity or another. They constantly criticize every sort of quote traditional male archetype, any traditional male expression. Therefore, the only male expressions that are left uncriticized are the modern non-traditional expressions of masculinity, which is almost always some type of gay shit, which again, you leave no other positive attitude, no other positive avenue for male expression, for masculine expression, other than homosexuality, which ironically, and this is where the left gets very uncomfortable, because homosexuality in men is a predatory masculinity. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna say it in the cleanest and the most clinical, non-offensive, non-bullying language I can possibly manage. I'm just tearing right out of the heart of Webster's dictionary and medical journals and whatnot. It is a predatory masculine form. It is not a communal. It's not a part of the community. It is not a community building masculinity. It is a predatory masculinity. It's a Dateline with Chris Hansen type of masculinity. Listen, you know what? We're going to stop there. You can figure out, you can connect the rest of the dots on your own. We're going to close the book right there. That is the end of that chapter.
In a way to get sympathy from people who date men, sympathy from people who are attracted to men. And also when we live, obviously, in the patriarchy, there is this sort of built-in element where it's like, we have to protect him. We have to, like, that's baby boy, that's soft boy, that's my rat boy. Like, all of these things that we were talking about for the last 2 years are now sort of congealing in this way that it's like they're getting hip to it and they're using it against us.
It's manipulative.
Exactly. When you date men, you know exactly the type of guy that I'm talking about, where it's like, he's not good at anything and you got.
So so wait a minute. She's like, look, she dates men, he dates men. Let's trade notes and see what's wrong with these niggas. Oh my God. Look, sometimes you just have to laugh at the world that you live in. You know, I laugh to keep my sanity. You know, this is what keeps me from climbing up in the bell tower with my last box of ammo. You know, it's the laughter that keeps me going. You just have to laugh at it all.
He just needs a hug. He's just a baby. And you're like, that's a 37-year-old man. That's not a baby. Like, that's not my baby. That's not your baby. Like, what are we doing here? You know?
Okay, wait. So give me an example of like a man or a fictional character in pop culture that people would know that fits your definition of the pathetic man, and maybe a man in pop culture who might seem like a pathetic man but isn't, just so people can really understand the difference.
Okay, that's a good question. I think maybe the examples that I used were too niche, because I would say Henry on Industry. So Henry is a character that we meet in season 3 who is sort of the picture of professional British success.
Now, I don't even know what this show is. That looks like Jon Snow right there. But so Hollywood writes a version of men that is intentionally, Hollywood writes a type of man or manhood. They create a presentation of masculinity, and then because you write a character that is intentionally flawed, he gives you all of the meat that you want on this particular bone. And now you're like, look, these are the niggas I hate. This is like Hollywood feeding its own ego. And again, you know, don't even get me started on who exactly and what exactly Hollywood is, but anyway.
Is a founder. We learn that he comes from a landed family. His uncle owns all of the newspapers in England. He's a very, very wealthy.
Oh, so he's a rich white man. Rich white man evil? Is that what this is about? Is it a whole show about rich white man evil?
The sort of protected man, right? Scratch the surface, one layer, literally like an onion, one layer underneath that. Henry is someone who has never worked for anything, has never succeeded at anything, is bad at everything. And instead of using that to motivate himself or to become, you know, more captivating or interesting, or saying like, oh, I should actually try harder at things because my family will always protect me as a safety net, right? I actually am just going to feel sorry for myself. And so women that he comes into contact with are like, oh my God, my baby. And it's like, no, he's doing this on purpose. Like he knows.
He knows. And by the time they often realize it, it's like way too late. I mean, in literally one of the characters, one of the main characters of Industry literally marries him and is then kind of like, you know, I mean, she thinks she's marrying this billionaire guy who is he's pretty hot, you know? I mean, he's played by this.
You know, this is one of the reasons why I don't watch a lot of television. And I used to watch way too much TV. But the problem with watching way too much television is you begin to map these Hollywood archetypes into your real world. And regular people will always disappoint you compared to Hollywood. You will rarely meet a normal person. You will never actually meet a normal person that is just like the Hollywood script. And they keep attempting to sort of create these Hollywood archetypes of masculinity that you can never actually live up to. And then on the other hand, they're also the same type. It's the same archetype of masculinity that you guys say you hate.
same actor who played Jon Snow, which I didn't watch Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
Kit Harington. He's played
Kit
by Kit
Harington.
Harington. Handsome guy, very charismatic. But like you said, you get one layer beneath the surface. And he's just this ball of want and need and like just like just feeling sorry for himself constantly.
Right.
And yeah, in some ways, I think that kind of draws, that draws people in. Like you said, draws some of the women in. But by the time they realize that it's like,
And what does that really tell you about the women, though? As much as you want to make all this pathetic conversation about men, what does that really tell you about women?
And I think using pop culture as examples, I said specifically that like we are trained in our society that if you date men, their needs have to, and obviously I'm a man, right? But like,
Yeah.
and I know this, and have I benefited from this? No, because I date losers. But you are trained in society that if you date men, their needs will come before yours. That we are supposed to like sort of keen and fawn and like, oh my God, he's so sad. We have to protect him. We have the poor baby. But like the whole trope of the sad boy is sort of leaning into this, where I'm saying that now, because they have become self-aware with the rise of therapy, with the rise of like being able to name so many societal ills that have befallen them or that they're blaming on. I'm thinking of men in my life now. I'm like, yeah, the speeches. They are now using that in order to like, again, entrap and ensnare. And like, I understand that I'm a sort of hard-edged person, that I'm a little bit meaner than the average person, because there is a read on this that it's like, but why aren't we happy that more men are in touch with their emotions? Why aren't we happy that more men are like...
You notice how the left wing is only comfortable with homosexual men who are, quote, mean? If you're straight, if you're overtly heterosexual, you can't be mean. You're always the bad guy if you're a straight man and you're too direct, you're too harsh, you're a little bit too stuck up, you're too rigid. But if you're gay, then they'll just be like, oh, you just got read by my gay friend. Angry gay wrath or nothing. That's really how they actually like operate, really. Only gay men are allowed to be men, apparently, whatever that really turns into. But that's really kind of how the left plays it. If you're just a dude, you have to kind of constantly check yourself. But the gays can always get excited. It's like you, as the gay man, you're allowed the emotionality of a woman, apparently.
I need my partner to be there for me in X, Y, and Z ways.
Yeah.
But I also will say, why is it always that their needs come first? Why are they...
No, not only can you slap a woman with a gay accent, I have seen gay men get into straight up one-on-one, man-to-man fist fights with women. And nobody jump in, nobody be like, that's a female. I promise you, if you watch it and you see this happen, especially in the community, especially if you up in the ghetto, especially when you up around a bunch of niggas, I'm telling you, you will see this eventually. I've seen this with my own eyes. It plays out like this all the time around the blacks, y'all.
I'm telling you, man, this the reason why I be hating niggas, man. I'm telling you, man. It just be us. I be hating niggas, man.
A big 6 foot tall gay man will be beating the holy brakes off of a black woman, maybe even 2 black girls in public. I mean, knuckles to cheekbone, wigs getting thrown around, a straight up masculine brawl, man on girl, and none of these niggas will say that's the female. I'm telling you, to be a gay man is to be given the power of domestic abuse, y'all. Only gay men can abuse women and get away with it. I swear to God, I've seen it. Don't nobody else intervene. Only gay men are allowed to beat girls up.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
Always the main character in the relationship? Why are they always like, in the fictional sense, why are these stories being centered? And I've talked about this with regards to Bravo. I think that there is this sort of weird double consciousness, like tension in American society where it's like, all men are evil and all men are out to get you until they actually hurt you, and then they didn't mean to. They didn't know
Well, I
what they were
mean,
doing.
That's like Vanderpump Rules. There's so many guys
Yes.
on there, whether it's
Yes.
Tom Sandoval or Tom Schwartz or Jax Taylor.
devil.
I mean,
devil
all
himself.
of these guys have done things. We've watched them
Yeah.
do things over the years, whether on Vanderpump Rules or on The Valley, to harm the women in their lives. Lying, cheating, being emotionally abusive, being deceitful, screaming in their faces, calling them names.
More television though. Now they're going again to reality shows. Blaming more television.
The 11 years before that was a scary time. I wonder.
And SKC, yeah, I don't know if I need to make it that plain, but if you're in the community and you have to be physically aggressive with a woman, the easiest, the safest, cleanest way to do that is to wear a dress, y'all. I'm telling you. If you want to get away with beating up girls in the Black community, you have to be wearing a dress. Hey, listen, I don't make the rules. I keep trying to tell you niggas, I do not make the rules. It's the only way to have moral authority in a physical confrontation with a girl is to be wearing a dress. You have to put the dress on if you want to beat a girl up without getting like, that's a female. You're not supposed to hit girl. Dress blurs all the moral lines about it all, and then you just get a pass on it.
There are all of these like words, like little buzzwords that feel very connected to this archetype of a pathetic man, like a performative male or like what is that, the rat boy or soft boy or baby girl. All of these terms have been used to also describe different types of male celebrities. We've been talking a lot about sort of fictional characters or people that we've seen on like reality television or something like that. But I'm wondering also about the construction of the ideal male that we see in celebrity. Like, how is this idea of a pathetic man like reflected through the changing rules of male celebrity?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I wrote about the whole rat boy, soft boy, baby girl thing. At the end of 2025, I think like December 20th, I wrote The Year Men Broke, where I sort of tackled all of the discourse around men not reading and men not graduating and Scott Galloway and all of the articles that we've had about men. And I do think that with celebrity, so Vanity Fair's Hollywood issue this year, for those who don't know, every year Vanity Fair does an issue, it's called the Hollywood issue, and it's a collection of celebrities, and they say this is what is important this year or in the coming year, right?
And they did so many different kinds. I still have like, I think an issue from 2003 or 2004 where that was like the young Hollywood issue.
Yes.
So they have like, exactly. They have like different themes for different years. But this year it was like all dudes.
It was all men. And I thought it was interesting. So I did an analysis and I was looking at the careers of all of the men. And I said, 2025 is the year of something about men. We couldn't stop talking about men. But I was like, okay, it's interesting. Jeremy Allen White, who is playing this very like sad man who has sort of risen to prominence being sad, right? Paul Mescal, who has risen to.
So what you're telling me is that Hollywood is projecting male weakness onto its audience, right? Which is, this is why that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms did such, huge numbers. It was such a cultural moment. That whole Get Up meme is now gonna live forever on the internet because it gave you, honest seems too cliche of a word, but it gave you a type of masculine character that was innocent, and it was an innocent type of masculinity. And that's kind of why they're going to totally nerf the show coming around season 2. The masculine figure that they gave you in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, he was honest, he was innocent in the sense that he had no idea the machinations of people truly until he got out there from under his he was a squire, so his knight, let's say he got away from his master died, in that whole kung fu sense of the word. his master died and now he's out there in the world. And all he really had to really, arm him in the world, the only thing that really kept him going was his innocence and his masculinity. And ultimately, the show culminated in a prevail of masculine innocence, right? Just being a man who tries hard enough, a man who believes hard enough, a man who is willing to die for it prevailed. And that is a message that's ultimately threatening to the left-wing social political structure. They don't really want to project too much of that type of masculine image. It's too plain, it's too simple. There isn't a lot of moral ambiguity to that character. But the people that they're talking about, these are characters who are full of moral ambiguity. These are characters who just, it's written by people who themselves probably don't have a clear sense of honesty and morality, right and wrong, or even true pure masculinity.
Prominence playing very sideman many times. And I said a lot of the men, so Riz Ahmed is interesting because he is like beautiful and sad, but he doesn't get the internet baby girl thing in a way that like this sort of term is reserved for like young white men.
Yes.
And it is interesting how the internet sort of grapples with the idea of like the changing nature of masculinity, right? So I love Glenn Powell, surprisingly. For anyone who is a fan of me, they're like, really? Oh my God. Because Glenn Powell is innately charismatic and very interesting looking. But he is someone who is sort of like, I am vulnerable. I didn't hit it big until I was 35. Like I am very comfortable talking about failure. I'm very comfortable being this like traditional, this sort of marriage between what we expect a Hollywood celebrity to be, right? The sort of Tom Cruise mold of like handsome action star,
and
along
he's like
with
not afraid to show effort,
right?
Which like being effortful is in many ways like the antithesis of traditional masculinity.
Yeah,
you're supposed to just be able to play it cool at all times. But I think that's what that's the thing that ended up tipping.
You think men just don't try? And I'm gonna move on to this because I want to get back to that other conversation I found earlier. But I think it's interesting that because I guess a lot of these women, they spend so much time consuming the fantasy image and the projection of men written by Hollywood that one, their expectations of men are just totally shot. They're giving images of men, and so they now have desires of men that are born out of pure nothing. And then they almost like, it's like they consist on these ideas. They consume these ideas as nourishment almost. And now they want something that they can never ever put their hands on for real. And you'll be like permanently unsatisfied by this. But I want to move on. I want to come back to Brianna Greyjoy and this conversation about men and male loneliness. These left-wingers are, you got to pay attention to them, I find. It helps to learn what they think.
Is a little reprehensible to me.
But why not call out the behavior? Like, there is no other group in which you would call out a group for the behavior of some. Like we have, okay, fine. You want to hate on them too? Good luck building a coalition.
But it's not. But we have built a coalition based on expressing, like calling out the behavior of white people, of men, based on their implicit bias, based on structural violence, and it has been successful. It's just.
In what way?
Yeah, well, Ren, I think Ella is right. I think that part of what caused me to bristle at the analogy to other forms of bigotry is that, one, when we deal with these kind of majoritarian groups in a country like America that's 75+% white, where we've had these civil rights struggles, there very much is a understanding that we're talking about a structural issue as opposed to individual racism. And when we talk about anti-Blackness and white supremacy and things like that, in those contexts, if someone pops up and says, well, not all white people, we understand that it's a sort of a derailing tactic. That, of course, it's not
Exactly.
every single white person, but we're talking about a broad phenomenon here that all white people might not participate in, but all white people do benefit from.
And notice how that argument is only ever allowed to go one way. You know, not all Black people are committing murder, but the homicide rate in Black America is ridiculously high. What's up with that? Somehow we can never honestly have that conversation. We can never apply that tactic in the opposite direction, you know?
But for some reason, when we're talking about men and young boys, and in this particular instance, we're talking about the ways that they're victimizing young girls. There is a victim in the scenario that is completely absent from the conversation, which is
And
young
it's young
girls
women.
and
Thank
young
you.
women.
That was so well said.
That suddenly we're doing this. It feels a little like a reverse racism argument. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I don't think talking about white people as a group is helpful in that way either. I think the construct of whiteness is useful to like deconstruct and think through. The construct of like white supremacy and the way that like the Irish became white, the Italians become white are some Hispanic elements of who've been here for a while. Are they becoming white? Like that's all interesting and worth unpacking. But to just blanketly talk about white people, it has not been useful or helpful at all. Like what has been the benefit to the political project or to the intellectual project to lump?
You know me. I mean, you were my editor. You know that I wrote a lot of pieces about how I think that Bernie's way of talking about this was frankly more effective. I don't think it's useful, especially for politicians in a political context, to be broadly saying, all these people are racist, Trump voters are racist, regardless of what I actually think is happening on an individual or systemic basis. Like, I understand the political point you're making, but I also want to root this in what actually happened on the internet. There was a study, a Pew Research study, that showed a trend line, right? Even within the context of that study, overwhelmingly, both young high school boys and high school girls still want to get married. Like, let's be so clear about the statistic we're talking about. Both are still upwards of, 80% or 70% wanting to get married. But when we're talking about trends, there tends to be an expansive language. So the Brian Wilcox is lamenting girls don't want to get married. Not all girls. The girls aren't saying, oh no, don't be bad at me. This is a prejudice, because it's not all girls. But girls are less likely to want to get married. Jill and some people are saying, well, Jill is saying there's probably some explanation for why girls, capital G girls don't want to get married, and it has something to do with capital B boys. And now you're popping in like not all boys. Well, what about not all girls?
No,
if
I'm
we're
not saying
doing not all everybody.
But I'm not saying not all boys. That
again, it's just you're always using these trend arguments in a one-sided direction. We can play the trend game in any numerous amount of ways, but if we start playing the trend game for real, you're going to start to cry. Oh, not all Blacks, not all girls. This is a very one-sided nature of the left wing, I noticed. The way they just bring things up, you're never allowed to have the discussion in totality. You're only allowed to have handcuffed arguments.
Okay, what are you saying?
So we all agree that huge numbers of boys are having like huge problems right now. The question is how you come at it. If you come at it from these boys are awful, and they're awful, and I can't countenance the idea of them being protected or coddled or thought about in like this kind of doing a social analysis to figure that out. Like you just want to point the finger at them and identify all of the awful things that they're doing and say, look, see, no wonder, girls don't want to get married anymore. Yeah. Okay. All that's true. But the other way of coming at it would be the way that we talk about girls, for instance. Boys and girls are both facing a mental health crisis right now. Girls are facing a more significant mental health crisis.
You wouldn't know it from the newspapers.
Yeah. So it's just a different way of talking to and about the groups. Nobody's saying, nobody's blaming the girls for having a mental health crisis, right? And nobody's doing a not all girls or any of that. what you want
Ryan,
what you
the
want to do is you
girls
want to
aren't
unpack
inflicting.
where does it come from? What
Girls are not inflicting sexual violence onto young men
on
in the same
boys.
rate.
Oh, so now the boys are just inflicting violence on the girls. And look at how she's like gleefully just like, you boys are just monsters.
That young men are
so therefore
inflicting
we
sexual
shouldn't
violence
so therefore
on
we
women.
shouldn't address it. So we shouldn't
No,
address
but
the
should
mental
address
health
it.
crisis?
No, I'm going to tell
Go ahead,
you
Ellen.
how to address it. I'm going to tell you how to address it as a teenager.
And you know, one of the problem, and this is a left-wing male problem, you don't have a forceful enough male figure to just, stand up to this shit. Like literally just stand up to it. Like make them, every time they say something goofy, just make them, back them down into the corner over and over again. Constantly put them on the defense. Like you just don't have the male figure to because you know what happens? As soon as you start to defend yourself like a man, you become the evil bad guy. You're only allowed to get angry when you're gay.
As someone who's witnessed many of my peers fall down the pipeline, the way to address it is to nip it in the bud and to censor manosphere content on Meta, on X, on YouTube, and to just cut it from the source. Because
now they want to you see, now you have to shut the men up. In order for the women to feel better, you have to shut the men up. Only men who say nice things can be allowed to talk.
really, it's actually not a mental health crisis at the core. It's an internet crisis. This content is going around. It's everywhere. It's on the For You page of every single man I know. And no matter if they're depressed, if they're lonely, or if they're not, if they're perfectly happy with their lives, they are going to see it.
And you know what? We were talking about the Hollywood representation because the people on the last video kept bringing up Hollywood examples of masculinity. And there were always these kind of like maybe physically attractive men, but emotionally flawed men, which is also coincidentally catnip to these crazy broads who just watch TV all day long. The manosphere is like shattering that Hollywood projection, that kind of effect masculinity, that almost like a safe yet desirable masculinity that Hollywood likes to project for women. The manosphere totally destroys that. Not only are these men flawed and imperfect, they're still charismatic, they still attract the crowd, they still earn money or whatever. And all the things that you say you want in men, the things that you say you like about men, those men say that shit's gay. You call it simping. And so the manosphere, it totally blows up and destroys the false projection of masculinity that most of these women have to go on because they don't actually meet or understand men on a really personal, raw level. They've kind of been sheltered and sequestered away from masculinity and toxic masculinity and all that. They've been given sort of the dominant social hand for so long that they're just uncomfortable with actual expressions of male discontent and men just being regular men. And so now the manosphere comes along and it's like, no, we really hate you bitches. And we're still the shit though. It just totally destroys everything.
And we can teach them how to analyze this content, how to have that media literacy, how to stop and think before they agree with every point. But the real and more pressing issue is, why is it on the platform in the first place? Of course, because these far-right grifters make money, but we need to stop it at the source and just get the content off the platforms.
But, right, that's not going to happen.
That's going to be a little controversial. I mean, censorship, generally speaking, I think is a little bit of it's going to be a difficult one, I think, for folks listening, just because once you go down that path, as we've seen in very recent history, the overwhelming thrust of the censorship campaigns, because of who owns these apps, is against the left. And I think there's going to be folks who listen to say, well, yeah, of course I find this content abhorrent, but is it really about the exposure to this content?
That's also just factually untrue. censorship over the last like 50, 75 years has very much been a anti-right wing thing. The left wing has actually been battling to have certain things, there's been a kind of battle against censorship that the left wing has owned, but it was really like so we can make things like porn widely accessible. That's what the left wing really fights against censorship on. But when the right wing has ideas, it's like about race and demographics and religious concepts. All that shit gets censored though. And so the real censorship is of right wing ideas, not left wing smut.
Or are people making content that is tapping into something else that's going on in society? So, for example, some folks are trying to wrestle with, why might younger women not want to get married? And why do we broadly see trends against marriage? I think there's another statistic that shows that by 2050, 45% of women will be single. It's the largest number in the first time. I obviously have this conversation a lot with my other unmarried friends about, the value of marriage in a world where the economy has shifted so that women aren't reliant on men for salaries and increasingly are frustrated about the asymmetries of child rearing in a way that has discouraged many of my peers from even wanting to go down that road. So are we dealing with a sort of socioeconomic reality that leaves young boys and men feeling like they have less to offer in the quote unquote dating market, and therefore they're these predators on the internet who are able to make them feel like, no, you have intrinsic worth as a man because men are better than women, misogyny. And that is a sort of compensation for the.
Don't I have intrinsic worth as a man? Are you saying I do not have intrinsic worth as a man? As a man, my worth. As a man, I am intrinsically worthless. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Brianna?
Predators on the internet who are able to make them feel like, no, you have intrinsic worth as a man because men are better than women, misogyny. And that is a sort of compensation for their sort of socioeconomic status, which no longer validates a narrative that they have superiority or even just intrinsic value. And if that's the root of the problem, well, then I agree with you, Ryan. As the left, we should be providing solutions to that by acknowledging that and then working on public policy that enables people to support themselves and live happy, fulfilled lives, regardless of whether or not they can, make a bunch of bucks and attract a woman to their cave or what have you.
I don't think the left wing can ever properly understand this phenomenon. Giving welfare to women, it doesn't make men happy. And giving welfare to men doesn't make women happy either. Women don't really like the idea of men getting free money either. As much as women want free money for themselves, women do not like the idea of men being like the beneficiaries of something for free. They really believe men have to just figure it out and get it however they can, and then we'll just take it from them after that. And this is kind of why I keep focusing on this concept, SKC, because like you said, the left has never provided solutions for men. And I think it's a fundamental problem. It's kind of baked into the cake of the left wing because of the things that they believe at the heart, at the bottom of the leftist belief structure. There's the fundamental belief that men have been suppressing women throughout the entirety of human existence. It stops them from actually doing anything for men. If your entire moral structure is built on opposing a thing, then you are forever incapable of seeing that thing as somehow a victim, of somehow deserving of your sympathy, of somehow deserving of a kindness even. If you're a good Christian, how do you give sympathy to the devil, SKC? Let's sit in that for a moment. If you are a good, believing Christian, how do you give sympathy to the devil, SKC? Yet, because Christianity is like a really, really far out there, complex moral conundrum, you are compelled to give sympathy. Even God himself will, eventually bring it all together, I suppose, right? But from a left wing, the left are not Christians who believe in redemption. The left wing has no redemption arc that brings you back into the light of God, right? So there is no room for sympathy. And this is like the problem of the left wing religious construct, right? You're not even allowed to have sympathy for the devil. And that's kind of that's the problem of, the men. And especially now you can stretch it out from men, because men is one layer of it. But then there's the whole racial context. Like I said, this is a very racially coded conversation they're having here. So there's no sympathy for the white devil. And it's in its proper, most complete context, what I'm expressing to you right now about the left wing, there is truly no sympathy for the white devil. And men in their purest form are just little symbolic representations of the grander white devil. To be a man in its purest form is to be white, effectively. This is why Black men get called coons, because you're doing that man thing in a white way, and we just can't stand for that.
You. And I see there's some like nodding in agreement. But to come back to the point of tension that I think keeps coming up in these conversations is that this is not a both sides issue. Women not wanting to be partnered with men seems to be a reaction to male behavior. Male loneliness, in many people's reading of it, and I want you to opine on this, Ryan, seems to be a reflection of men and boys not being socialized to be as good at forming relationship as women and girls are, as being empathic, as sharing their feelings as openly, as having intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy with our girlfriends because of homophobia. All of those kinds of things have led to male loneliness. Patriarchy itself has led to male loneliness. And then there's an
Whoa. What did you just tell me? Hold up now, Brianna.
Their feelings as openly as women and girls are, as being empathic, as sharing their feelings as openly, as having intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy with our girlfriends because of homophobia. All
Women really can't understand why men just aren't as gay as women are. Women are naturally like, let me not say gay, but women have what you call sexual elasticity that men just don't. We can't really operate in that realm. Like, like the way girls walk around naked in front of each other. Men, we don't want to look at each other's dicks. It's not a bonding ritual. I've never been so close to a homie that we just walk around with our dicks hanging out. Women will do that with each other. Women alone in a house will walk around barely naked with each other. Because women's relationship to like sexual and physical intimacy is a completely different thing from men. And women in their heart of hearts and their little tiny girl brains, they really can't, they can't understand why men aren't as gay as women are. That's the cleanest way I can explain that. Women just cannot understand why men are not as gay as women.
How do it equivalate?
of those kinds of things have led to male loneliness. Patriarchy itself has led to male loneliness. And then there's an irony that it is these misogynists who have been promoting the patriarchy that are creating the conditions that men are now saying that the left, that women are responsible for curing. And so I want to open it back up to you, Ryan. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all good stuff. All I really want is for men and boys, and in particular in boys, like these are boys, children, to be treated like people who are subject to, these parasitical, brutal social forces, and deserve our understanding and our empathy. The fact that
sorry, go ahead.
The fact that their misery expresses itself in this misogynistic hostility that does not excuse it, And anybody who engages in any type of violence or harassment should suffer consequences. That's not what we're saying here. What we need to say is where's it coming from, and how can we change it so this stops happening? And you're never going to get there if you don't treat them like people who are.
That's really the heart of this whole manosphere thing. Even before the manosphere, there was like the men's rights movement and all that. And it's I think we're learning a lesson here about women. As a group, women are not going to treat men like people, and maybe you shouldn't expect them to. And so, and I keep coming to this bitter conclusion over and over again, and I kind of sum it up in a basic, really short sentence, I guess, right? The nature of female reality dictates oppression. And I think as men, we're having a difficulty coming to terms with that reality. Because think about this, right? When I say the nature of female reality dictates oppression, what I'm really getting at is simply this. If the women are given a free hand, they will completely and thoroughly subjugate the women to whatever their ends are, whatever they perceive their needs to be. They will completely and thoroughly subjugate the men without any real emotional or quote moral conundrum. The women will not feel morally conflicted by it. The men, on the other hand, because men do conceive of things like morality, what God wants, why should I do a thing, what makes a thing good in the first place? Because men, we ponder these questions, we spend time alone in deep thought about these realities. We've decided not to completely subjugate the women. By and large, there are lesser developed societies, and over time, it wasn't always that nice either. But as a rule, men in any civilization you can name of have not brutally oppressed the women as much as they could have, and especially compared to other places on the earth. I just played a video yesterday. Some chick in the Muslim world was literally getting hit in the face with rocks, man. In the Western world, we have long given up on the practice of hitting women in the face with rocks. We just don't hit chicks in the face with rocks like that. Women, on the other hand, would not feel any sympathy about you being beaten to death with rocks. They would find a way to make it your fault. You got to be quicker than that.
Subjects to these forces, and if all you want to do is say that these are just awful creatures.
But come on now, Ryan. That's not what Jill said. And God, strike me down for having to defil Jill Filipovich for this entire episode.
It's what men and boys hear, like, overwhelmingly from the Democrats.
Of course they do, but it's difficult. It's difficult as a young woman to, kind of hear that and take it seriously. Because really, when you say treat young men and boys like people, what comes to mind is the fact that they don't treat us like people.
No, that's fair.
And
they need to, and somebody, the left needs to model that kind of behavior. It needs to model that we're all in this together.
And we're talking here.
And there's the problem. You don't have a way of depicting positive, healthy masculinity. All you can ever do is talk about things that you hate. And on the other hand, and this is the irony of it all, this is what makes it so confusing. As much as you talk about the men you hate, those are the guys who get all the bitches.
About the feelings of young men and boys, and it just feels so
right.
So tedious.
This is where you guys always lose me. Whenever anybody says the kinds of things I'm saying, it goes immediately to, oh, we're talking about the feelings of men and boys. And just saying that alone is supposed to be enough to kind of mock the idea, and we should all move on and talk about something serious, something that matters.
Well,
and what
no,
and
Ella,
what and the implication there is what doesn't matter are the feelings of men and boys. And you know, and it's not easy for men to say that. They're very like fragile dudes, like, but they do have feelings, and they won't tell you that they're hurt. What they will do is they will turn into reactionaries and lash out. So
Won't we think of the reactionaries' feelings?
yes,
Yeah, but Ryan, I'm not even hearing young boy, like looking at all the Twitter threads and all the back and forth. I'm not seeing young boys assert themselves. I'm not seeing young boys saying, gosh, I wish someone would be more sympathetic to my way of life. I'm seeing
You know, this is a great point. And Ms. Cantrell, this is why my misogyny isn't a feeling. It is my misogyny is an intellectual disposition. There isn't a feeling of hatred behind my misogyny. To that degree, misogyny perhaps isn't even the most accurate term, but it's all we got, and it's all I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna ride with misogyny because it's all we got. It's the best word I got. But it's not a pure feeling of hatred of women. My misogyny is born of observation and acceptance of reality, right? When you say that for men, some guys are bigger and stronger. For women, the entire male species is bigger and stronger and can easily subdue. To subjugate men without moral qualm is perhaps a perverted attempt to mitigate, right? Which means you're to mitigate that biological reality, right? So what you're telling me is that biologically you are incapable of morality. From a biological perspective, you are revealing your incapability to grasp with a moral conundrum. And you know why you're revealing that? Because only the strong can truly be moral. Yes. That now we're back to the politics and the morality of strength versus weakness, right? You're not moral because you chose something out of weakness. Your morality shines more. It's a more effective example of morality when you have all the power to do a thing and you choose to not do a thing for an actual reason, for an abstract concept that compels you to a behavior higher than your physical impulse, right? And what you're telling me, Ms. Cantrell, is that women are forever trapped in the slave morality of having a lesser ability to act. And this is again why my misogyny is not an emotion, it is a philosophical disposition. And thank you for that, though. That's actually a revelatory statement, and I think that is probably a lot closer to reality than it makes most people comfortable. But I think that really does get to the heart of a lot of the dispositional difference between men and women. Biologically, you see no evil, but from the male perspective, biologically, we are the only ones truly capable of good or evil, because from your perspective, you don't even consider a thing good or evil. It's just purely survival. And which goes to another whole concept, right? What do you hear from Black women all the time, right? They're in survival mode. They're not wrong about the decisions they made to get by. Why? Because they're in survival mode. She's not morally suspect because she chooses welfare over a family unit. Why? Because she's in survival mode. You guys remember, this is a great classic Black movie, Dead Presidents, where Lawrence Tate, he went off to fight the Vietnam War, and he comes home. His girlfriend was getting slaughtered out by the local pimp drug dealer nigga. And you know what she basically told him? You was off fighting the white man's war. I was home in survival mode.
Adult men kind of project a sense of like their understanding of how young boys are feeling. And I see young women like Ella saying, well, this is my experience with young boys. And I see older women like Jill and myself saying, yeah, this is kind of echoing our experiences as well, having been all of these ages at one point in life. And so I it's not that I don't think that if there were a young boy right now, and I looked around a little to see if I could see, like, I don't be having, 20-year-old male acquaintances like that these days. So, but it's not, if they were sitting here and they said, well, I started watching Andrew Tate because I feel this way. Of course, I think everyone here would have empathy for a human experience presenting themselves, but there does seem to be something a little backward that we are sitting here with Ella, who is like saying repeatedly, I was victimized by boys in high school 6 months ago in these ways. And there's a prioritization of male feelings.
Exactly.
A version of this is like I saw some versions of this tweet in response to this controversy where people said, like, why was this statistic? Why was one gender liking marriage more than the other gender not a quote unquote crisis, and when it was women wanting marriage more than men? Why is it just a crisis now? There's another genre that says, look, for years, it has been a meme. It has been a trope of television that marriage sucks, women are a ball and chain, marriage is a punishment for a man. Every sitcom has some, a man rolling his eyes at his wife because she asks him to take on some childcare responsibility or clean the.
Not only that, well, every depiction of marriage in the modern world is literally women bossing their husbands around, women dominating the home. Remember, Everybody Loves Raymond. The entire focus of the show was how much of a cuck Raymond was for his bossy wife who could never stop shutting up. And then it turns out that's what his whole childhood was like. He had a crazy mom.
House or something. And now you're mad that women don't want to continue to be victims and are asserting themselves. How is this not akin to asking the victim of an assault or a victim of racism or a victim of all of the social asymmetries that we know to suddenly subordinate their own fight for equality and desire to escape victimhood and sublimate that to their attacker, the person who victimized them's emotional needs.
And as you know
what? And this is like, this cuts again on a racial level as well as gender. The left wing, whether it's, the oppression of women or the oppression of like Black people, you can never not be a victim, because as soon as you're not a victim, you're no longer a member in good standing of the left wing. And so in order to even hold on to your place in the left wing social structure, you have to maintain some level of victimhood. And this is what makes their victimhood so like disturbing. They're constantly attacking with their victimhood. And so because he wants to be like the nice and white man who's not threatening and not, being harmful, he can never stand on his masculine assertiveness, right? He can never simply declare that might makes right, even though what he's up against is by definition a type of might makes right. This is the feminine application of might makes right, which in practice, the difference is being bludgeoned to death by a shield versus being beheaded by a sword, right? Ultimately, you're going to die either way, but one is a lot quicker and cleaner and more definitive. The other one, it claims a victimhood while constantly being on the attack.
I've spent a lot of my career covering criminal justice system and criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
The speech that you just gave could have been delivered by a, what would you call it? Anti-criminal justice reform person, verbatim.
No, it couldn't, right?
You're asking the victims of crime to subjugate, to like subsume themselves to the broader. You're talking about these root causes of crime.
Yes, you can deal with root causes of crimes. I don't ask the rape victim.
Will you shut up and let the white man talk? God damn. This is why nobody likes you bitches. Shut the hell up and let the white man say something. Can the white man talk a little bit? You invited him here. You're probably not even giving him no money. He doing this out of the pure whiteness of his heart. and you bitches won't shut the fuck up.
Can a nigga live? Can a nigga live? Please.
Talking about treating criminals like people, talking about the root causes of crime.
Yes, we can
And you're
talk about
asking
all of that
victims
without asking
victims
the
of crime.
victim.
No.
of
That is
crime.
the number one argument that was
No,
always
I'm
made.
not asking a victim of crime to say their rapist shouldn't be punished. That's not the point of criminal justice reform. The point is not to say that there shouldn't be accountability.
That is the
it's to
argument
talk
that
about
was
what.
being made.
No, but Ryan, I don't even speak for you, Ella, but it feels like we're just skipping over the accountability step. I think that
I
criminal
just said there
justice
should
reform
be
is
accountability. Like, that's
but what does it look
that's a
like?
red-
What does it look like? At what point? How should young boys like the ones that Ella went to school with be held accountable?
There is no social accountability for these actions. There is zero social accountability. If you
And that's we.
And listen to what they're arguing for, right? You want some type of grand social punishment for high school boys who don't behave perfectly. Which takes me back to my initial point about women have no moral conundrum about how far they go, especially involving men. They feel no guilt, no shame about how far they will grow to just crush some guy. But they are forever the victim.
That's what we need. We need role models that are showing what is acceptable and strong and good behavior, and that
there
behavior
are
outside of that
so
is,
many role models.
But that's not
and that-
accountability,
behavior
Ryan.
outside of that is
That's
stigmatized.
not accountability still. There are so many young role models for young men. I mean, like, it's not a question of, oh, should there be more role models? It's a question of, oh, like, this is a social problem among young men where they can't hold each other accountable because it's just...
You know, every week it seems like there is a new woman, usually a teacher. Recently, it was like the mayor of some small town, like in Florida or something. Shout out to Florida. Y'all be getting it off down there. But every week it seems like another woman, an adult woman, gets arrested for having an inappropriate sexual relationship with a young boy at her school, some high school kid. Why don't we actually address the predatory nature of women and young boys? Why don't young boys ever get to be seen as a victim, even when it's an adult woman?
Not that important to them to empathize with women. That's the real issue.
Ella, can you tell us about what happened? You tweeted out an anecdote of something that happened at your school, I think, to some folks a little bit older than you. Wherein the boys at the school, if I understand it, were...
Okay, it was in Louisiana. My bad. Y'all be nasty in the bayou too. Shout out to Louisiana. Something in that water down there.
Using their female classmates' email addresses to sign up for Pornhub accounts?
Yes. So the graduating class of 2020 at my school wrote a very heartfelt letter to my school administration detailing instances of sexual harassment, sexual violence, racism, misogyny, homophobia, and in that letter was this instance.
Notice the 3 pillars of left-wing religious morality just got dropped. It's like a catchphrase, right? Racism, misogyny, and homophobia. Those are the pillars of left-wing morality. Every moral problem they have is an extension of those 3 concepts: racism, misogyny, homophobia. Which ironically, if you think their most perfect person would be non-white, female, or at the very least gay. That is like a rough approximation of their Jesus-like figure. A non-white, feminine man, or just a woman, a queer woman, a non-white queer woman is basically left-wing Jesus. Could be a transgender, but still that would count as a queer woman.
That had happened where young men had signed up their female and queer classmates for Pornhub accounts using targeted usernames, and they sign them up using their school emails. So I can't speak on that, as that wasn't my I did not go to school with that cohort of people, but I can speak to the fact that if this happened when I was in high school 6 months ago, I would be deeply unsurprised. Many similar things happened. It doesn't feel out of place for to happen in a high school. And you can kind of see in the replies of that tweet the real dismissal of women's feelings, saying, oh, but this isn't sexual harassment, this is nothing, this is just name calling, anyone could have done this, I'd love to be called a sexy ginger bitch. And these are adult men referring to children, to, God forbid, that sexy ginger bitch was maybe 14, maybe a freshman in high school.
And to be clear, sexy ginger bitch is one of the nicer of these names. Ella, you're probably avoiding talking about some of the others because they're.
Neither one of you will ever be called a sexy ginger bitch, and I know it kills you deep down inside. Again, there's a deep racial coding in this conversation. I'm going to be the guy to point it out. They're both mad that they'll never be sexy ginger bitches, no matter how hard they try.
Chock full of racial epithets, which none of us should be saying. I can say some of them. So dirty nigger bitch is one of them. There's Asian slurs. Dirty Jew bitch is another one. Big titty Latina. There's worse ones than the ones I just said. Okay.
And that's not this isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to anyone in high school. This is just a graphic instance.
It's awful.
It is awful.
And, it's reflective of the dehumanizing attitude that these girls are experiencing from boys. So again, Ren, I would ask you
it's a product of the right-wing socialization of young men and boys. Of this, what we've watched happen over the last 10 years. I want a different.
How all of a sudden, as much as adult content is extremely left-wing coded, it was literally the left wing who promotes adult content and then tries to subvert the moral posture of the country by making adult content so ubiquitous, right? They put it everywhere. Every time you walk out your house, there's literally titties in your face now, it seems like. And somehow liking that content makes you right wing. Think about the moral hypocrisy of it all, right? To be a sex worker is liberal and empowering for the woman, but to consume sexual content is a right-wing perversion.
Socialization of boys and men. And I just don't think you're gonna get there without treating them as a go ahead.
But we can see a different socialization of young boys and men. We can see it with the Zohran Mamdani campaign, where young boys and men canvassed for him in droves, voted for him in droves, autocrat numbers up in Bushwick, and Zohran Mamdani did not campaign.
But Mamdani is a Muslim who may or may not be an apostate. He's a Muslim who's not even Musliming correctly.
Let's cuddle young boys, and
that's what I mean by modeling better behavior. Yes,
right. But at the end of the day, Zohran Mamdani did not campaign on a platform of let's humanize sexual abusers.
And in fact, he did weigh in on this issue. He was on Liz Plank's Boy Problems podcast, and he said the following. He said, I think, first of all, it is absolutely not women's responsibility to resolve this crisis. I think that this is a crisis that's born out of more systemic forces. He went on to say that a lot of those systemic forces contributing to men's loneliness have to do with just this greater sense of alienation in today's world as things are becoming more and more expensive for people to afford and the connections between people are fraying. So I think that is a good kind of socialist framework. I think I alluded to something similar early on. I think the key part there for me is him saying that women aren't responsible for the crisis.
Not
And
at all.
when
Yeah.
when we saw women like Jill and Ella pipe up expressing their frustration with the existence of the crisis, it does look to me, Ryan, like they're then being criticized for just saying, hey, yeah, the crisis is real and it sucks and I'm experiencing it. And that somehow is framed as like part of the problem because they're doing bigotry that's going to like radicalize the men further, as though men are radicalized because women are mean to them, as opposed to women are quote unquote mean to them because men are abusing them.
It will be harder to socialize men in a progressive direction if the Jills of the world are constantly making it feel to men like they are completely unwelcome, if there's no path for them out of this darkness. That's the point. It's not their responsibility, and go ahead and say whatever you want. I'm just saying, like, if you want to end this, if you want to fix this, if you want to change it, like, at least be open to the possibility of it, and don't mock the idea that boys and men's feelings like matter.
Ryan, are you
I'm
coming
gonna
to
be
this
honest
as
with you,
well as
Ryan.
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Ella.
Ryan, a lot of my peers do mock the idea of male loneliness.
I know they
because
do.
At the end of the
I
day,
absolutely know they do. We hear it all the time. We hear it from you all the time.
but you know what?
And now she's going to justify her mocking, and then totally refuse to take any accountability for the fact that you've been doing this for 40 years, for 70 years maybe. Because you're 18, you don't know the entire expanse of what you're doing. The whole span of feminism kind of escapes you right now. So you just think, well, I have every right to be a bitch.
We hear more misogyny. So it's difficult to take the idea of male loneliness seriously when I know what's driving the misogyny epidemic isn't male loneliness, it's misogyny. It's the pre-existing hatred for women.
But pre-existing to what? Time immemorial? I mean, these are social constructs.
Men are socialized from birth to hate women.
It's true, Ryan.
Since
like
when? Since when? Though, like
since always.
It's worse because it's worse.
Dawn of time.
It's so much worse today than
But
it was
what's
even
making it
15 years
worse-
ago. And there has not been a change in humanity in like the
But there
fundamental
has
nature.
been. There has been. It's called
Not-
feminism,
not
Ryan.
in-
The change in humanity is that women are able to, they don't rely on men. This isn't
What she's not really putting together in her own words, like she said it, but can't intellectually connect the dots. Feminism is making women hate men.
Like the
But there has
fundamental nature.
been. There has been. It's called
Not-
feminism,
not
Ryan.
in-
The change in humanity is that women are able to, they don't rely on men. This isn't Jane Austen, and I don't need a man who makes 400 a year.
Like 10, 15 years ago. Like, no, the charts are collapsing at a much higher rate than like women entering the workforce.
So
Okay.
what do you
15 years
attribute
ago,
it to?
Me Too had just been born. Like,
That's true
No,
too.
much less than that.
Well, I mean,
7 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to what do you attribute that Ryan? What do you think the rapid shift?
I think it's the right.
And the left wing culture really is struggling with the realization that no matter what, they actually do need at least a critical mass of men, not just some men. They need a lot of men. And now they don't understand why the men don't want to go along with constantly being told that it's your fault, you're the problem, and we have to punish you to fix things.
It's the right wing socialization. Like, it's the conscious right wing culturalization.
And by that you mean it's the way
manosphere.
that women are that when young women are being treated so poorly.
Yeah.
And now it's the manosphere's fault that the left is losing again.
It's making them
the manosphere. All of the things that Ella pointed to, I think are a driving.
right.
cause.
But I was asking what is driving women's disinterest in marriage, young women's and girls' disinterest in marriage.
Oh,
and you say it's the manosphere, but I'm like, well, it's the women's disinterest. So what's driving them? It's not the manosphere per se. It's how they're being treated by men, right?
Right. Yeah.
Again, it's like the focus of this conversation is constantly on.
No. Yeah.
Women are the ones that are changing, not men. Men still want marriage.
Yeah.
And
I'm
boys,
like, right. I'm not disagreeing with the problems that exist, and they're getting worse. I'm just saying, if we want to actually solve this, we have to like be a little bit more compassionate about it.
That's not going to happen.
Do you feel like you're coming to this also, Ryan, as a parent?
Asking women to have compassion for men literally dries up the coochie. Look at her face. Her coochie just dried. She doesn't even know what that feeling is yet. She's still a girl. She doesn't even understand what's happening right now. But her coochie just dried up when he said, have compassion for men. Her pussy was like, nigga, what?
I'm not sure what the gender distribution of your kids are, but I think you have at least one boy.
I have 3 girls and 1 boy. Yeah. I mean, not exactly. I'm not terribly. Most parents that I know are worried about their sons, that they're going to start watching Andrew Tate and will wind up going that direction. Maybe I'm being naive. I'm not terribly worried myself about that, but I'm on guard for it.
How so? I mean, why aren't you why aren't you terribly worried about it? And how do you be on guard for something like that?
Well, we monitor like YouTube and that sort of thing. We try to model, compassion and community and dignity and loving and try to pay very close attention to watch out. He also has 3 older sisters, which I think is helpful.
Although that can be radicalized.
It can be
radicalizing to people.
It can go both ways. No, I'm more concerned about it for my daughters, because I don't want them to live in a world where they are constantly victims of the expressions of this rage.
He's girl dadding. That's why you acting like such a bitch. Stop girl dadding. Just tell these girls the truth.
Oh, like, yeah, it's dark. It's bad. Like I
just don't think that we would use that phrase in any other scenario.
What phrase?
The expressions of their rage.
We would. In fact, it's only in this case that we don't understand behavior to be the product of social construction. It's only in this case.
One's saying the left.
So when it's criminals, when it's the blacks, when it's women acting crazy, forces that are beyond their control in society have compelled them to behave in ways that we would otherwise find distasteful. But because it's women, because it's blacks or some other marginalized group, we allow them grace, right? But we're not going to do any of that shit because it's men or white men in particular.
What are you saying that?
The left case that we don't understand behavior to be the product of social construction. It's only in this case.
One's saying the left. Nobody is saying that.
The left understands.
When we say
the left understands social constructs everywhere else. It's never controversial. It's only controversial here.
Ryan, do you think that, Ella, let me just ask you directly, Ella, do you think that your classmates' behavior is a social construct or because they're inherently bad?
No, it's a social construct. Dear God, men are not sprung out of the womb misogynistic.
Behavior therefore is a expression of the social construct. That's 101 level stuff.
Okay, so we all agree.
Use the term rage to describe.
And for one, the idea that behavior is purely an expression of social constructs alone completely rejects the biological reality of the human individual. You are not merely a product of your environment. You are written into your nature was also written into your biological being well before you inhabited some environment. You was who you was before you got here.
Any other scenario, because rage implies that there's some real legitimate reason, a reason that holds up.
Well, A, it doesn't necessarily imply that, and B, we would. Like, the rage at economic inequality is like, it's rage.
Well,
like
economic
and
inequality is
sometimes it's-
bad and women are great.
and sometimes, but sometimes the
part of it
rage is
too,
directed
Ryan.
in racist ways.
And look at the smugness. This is why domestic violence happens. Look at her face. And she's sitting there with all of her feminine protected reality. Like you are untouched by any of the things that you really are afraid of. And you're just going to tell this man, oh, well, economic inequality is bad and women are wonderful. Like, this is exactly why domestic violence happens.
By that, and B, we would. Like, the rage at economic inequality is like, it's rage.
Well,
like
economic
and
inequality is
sometimes it's-
bad and women are great.
I hit a woman for the first time in my life, and I'm having fun.
And sometimes, but sometimes
part
the
of it
rage is
too,
directed
Ryan.
in racist ways, and sometimes the rage is directed in productive ways.
I think this is part of the frustration too, that while I agree that it's a social construct, it is also true that everything that we've said about the economy being bad and jobs being bad, et cetera, women are experiencing too, right? And even worse. But the manifestation of that is different for men versus women because of how we're socialized. I don't think it's some innate intrinsic thing, although let me not go down that road. I don't think it's some innate intrinsic thing.
I mean, some of it's
but-
innate and intrinsic, like the genders are different.
Yeah, I don't like, that's a whole other podcast.
No, no, because you can't do that now. You don't even want to start on the premise that men and women have intrinsic difference, because then it would start to tear apart your entire left-wing construct, in which the left itself is just it's built on a series of false social constructs. And the minute you start to pull at that thread a little too hard, they have to turn and pivot to another conversation.
I'm too weary for that conversation right now. But
I gotta run in a second anyway, but go ahead.
I know. Okay. So it feels stay for just for a second, Ella. I'll wrap up with you, but I want to give you an opportunity, Ryan, just to respond to that last point that, like, do you sense any of the, do you understand what we're saying when there does seem to be some, like, all this latitude and grace? It's not that latitude and grace shouldn't be extended, but it's the disproportionate focus of the sympathy and latitude and grace that's being extended toward young men versus young women, because it feels like women are supposed to accept their lesser status. And it feels a little bit like, what did they say? When you're used to inequality, equality feels like oppression. It feels like one of those kinds of moments.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of
you have to confront your privilege. You are the white people in this conversation, Brianna. Brianna Gray, you are the white woman in this conversation. You and that funny looking chick below you.
Of the sympathy and latitude and grace that's being extended toward young men versus young women, because it feels like women are supposed to accept their lesser status. And it feels a little bit like, what did they say? When you're used to inequality, equality feels like oppression. It feels like one of those kinds of moments.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of perception, that we perceive it differently. I think from one side, people think like, oh, the men and boys are just completely coddled all the time. On the other side, they think that they get no grace whatsoever, and are the only group that isn't allowed to be part of a social construct.
No grace, Ryan. In a man's America, it's a man's world. No grace. You guys are still running every single thing. You get no grace.
And they're all miserable.
Ryan.
They're all miserable.
Oh, please.
You guys are
This is why domestic violence happens, because you refuse to accept that he's hurting until you start to hurt. And then you call the police and it's all his fault.
the hands of your own destruction.
We're all so miserable.
Exactly. That's the whole. That's the whole point. We have a common enemy here.
Not me. I'm doing great.
with a woman
Point
president.
single women.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, so single women are doing great and men are miserable. Which one is it? Is everybody happy? So men do have a problem and single women are happy, which means that we have to look at men, right? Because women are doing wonderful.
Of your own destruction.
We're all so miserable.
Exactly. That's the whole. That's the whole point. We have a common enemy here.
Not me. I'm doing great.
with a woman
Point
president.
single women.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, I'll let you go. Do you want to tell people where to find you on the internet beyond drop site,
No,
etc.?
definitely not. No, do not find me. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan, I appreciate.
That was the one gangster move he did this whole conversation. He literally said, no, don't contact me after this. I don't want you or your people to call me ever after this. That was the only gangster move he made this whole show.
Not me. I'm doing great.
with a woman
Point
president.
single women.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, I'll let you go. Do you want to tell people where to find you on the internet beyond drop site,
No,
etc.?
definitely not. No, do not find me. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan, I appreciate the grace that you showed in being willing to show up for this conversation. And we'll have to have you back soon to talk about more substantive political matters.
Again, only the men are compelled to show grace, but no grace is ever given to them. She literally laughed. There was a belly laugh that she did at the idea of giving men grace. And you know, the other one down there, you know, her coochie dried up. So that's how they think about it. You listen, you have to be cold because they're cold-blooded. They're damn near reptiles. These bitches are damn near lizard people. Like this picture on the screen is so accurate. Yeah, for women to have to sit with the reality that this is how men perceive most female interaction, we become the bad guy. Somehow women learning that this is how men perceive most of our engagement with women, somehow we're the problem. But anyway, we're going to wrap this one up here. You guys, thank y'all so much for coming out today. Hit that like button as we wrap this one up. Please throw $1 in the hat as we are on our way out of the show.
I need that money.
But we're going to put a pin in this conversation. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.
Aspiring to be patriarchs like what white men have, that isn't freedom. That isn't going to help anybody. It's certainly not going to help Black people.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's